Good afternoon again, dear colleagues. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Alexander Hawk, Deputy Chief Monitor to the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission in Ukraine, who will update us on the mission's operations and findings.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, welcome to the regular media briefing of the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine. Good afternoon. I would like to start today's briefing with an overview of some positive developments observed by our monitors of the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine. In the last week or so, our OSCE monitors have observed a number of positive developments in Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast. The mission has observed the process of withdrawal of large numbers of heavy weapons away from the front lines. We have also observed a decline in the frequency of ceasefire violations involving such weapons. This suggests that those who assigned the package of measures in Minsk on the 12th of February are taking steps to implement the second of those measures, that is, the withdrawal of heavy weapons. However, I'm sorry to say that there is less positive news in relation to the third measure, that is the verification of such withdrawal. All sides need to know that these weapons have not only been withdrawn, but remain withdrawn. It is now almost exactly a month since my boss, the Chief Monitor, Ambassador Abakan, has asked the signatories for baseline information. What happened, what heavy weapons they have, where these heavy weapons are now, which routes will be used to withdraw these weapons, and where they will be located after they have been withdrawn. Until all such information is provided by all signatories, all will remain suspicious of each other's intention and combat capabilities. And while we are now beginning to get some of this information, the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine continues to remind the sides that more is needed. In addition to this baseline information, the mission also needs freedom of movement, as provided for in the mandate entrusted to it by the government of Ukraine and by the other 56 participating states of the OSCE. In recent days, OSCE monitors have experienced restrictions of their freedom of movement, and I just list a few examples now. By members of the so-called Luhansk People's Republic in various areas close to the border with the Russian Federation, namely in places such as Parkhomenko, Vesnyane, and Sverdlovsk. By members of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic near Shirokine, by government forces near Khranitne, and by government forces and forces of those so-called Donetsk People's Republic members on the highway H20 between Donetsk, Mariupol, especially around Volnovakha. These restrictions contravene the mandate of the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission and prevent it from providing credible assurances that weapons are indeed being withdrawn and staying withdrawn, as opposed to being hidden or redeployed. The OSCE welcomes recent moves on all sides to provide some access to storage sites, but will continue to insist to further efforts by all sides to make it possible that the job the OSCE has been given by all sides can be completed. Despite the general decline in serious ceasefire violations, heavy weapons and small arms continue to be used in and around the Donetsk airport and in the south, in and around the town of Shirokine, just to the east of the city borders of Mariupol. OSCE monitors have also witnessed violations of the ceasefire involving small arms fire in places such as Pishevik, Chermalik, Khratny in the Donetsk Oblast. Other positive developments, however, include the following. On 9 March, the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission facilitated the demining by Ukrainian armed forces in the village of Kominternove. As most of you will know, this was a village that has long been subject of almost constant and permanent shelling. The following day, on the 10th of March, together with the International Committee of the Red Cross, the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission facilitated a visit to the airport in Donetsk and monitored the recovery of the bodies of 14 Ukrainian armed forces personnel. I would like to use this opportunity to remind you that the mission's daily reports contain further information on all these activities and, in keeping with the mission's mandate, reports on all restriction of movement the mission faces. I would like to end this briefing with our latest mission strength numbers. At the moment, there are 460 monitors from 42 participating states in 10 locations, 350 of which are in Donetsk and Luhansk Oblasts. We are on course to achieve our target. Within the next weeks, the SMM will have a total of 500 monitors in Ukraine. Our new edition of our mission status report with the latest information about the OSCE was published yesterday. You can find it on the OSCE website and in printed version behind you here at the Ukrainian Crisis Center, available to you in 3 languages. Thank you very much for your attention.
Дякую, колеги. Чи є запитання?
I'm with the AFP News Agency. I have 2 questions. First question is, we've seen in January how fast a ceasefire can unravel, starting from kind of sporadic deaths here and there on the front line into full-on clashes near the Donetsk airport. Do you have reason to believe this time is somehow different? Are you seeing a more robust kind of ceasefire taking place? Or if there are risks in specific places, maybe you can say what those are. And my other question is, I've seen in your reports that Ukrainian soldiers repeatedly ask the nationality of OSCE monitors, and I was wondering why that is. Is there a kind of lack of trust in those with Russian nationality or maybe other nationalities from the former Soviet Union? And can you maybe comment on, is the OSCE going to change something, or how are you sort of responding to those requests? Thanks.
Thank you for these 2 questions. First, on the ceasefire. The OSCE Special Monitoring Mission, as explained, deems that the ceasefire holds broadly along the long contact line, which you all know is almost 500 kilometers long. We see that at some strategic points, such as Shirokine or the Donetsk airport, the fighting is continuing, which is also, by the way, evidence that the weapons in these places have not been withdrawn in accordance with the package signed on the 12th of February. However, in general, we do see it as positive that most of this fighting is being conducted with small arms and smaller caliber weapons. That is an indication, as I've said, that the heavy weapons have actually been withdrawn or are not used any longer that often. However, this relative stability at the moment is on thin ice. You have to understand that the smaller caliber weapons are just 25 kilometers away from the places where they shouldn't be any longer. To put them back will not take much time. Therefore, it is important, and I reiterate, that the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission is given access to all sites where these weapons are stored so that the mission can count them, can make an inventory, and then return to these sites and then to assure each other party that these weapons are actually not only being withdrawn but remain withdrawn. It is unfortunate that the parties have failed to provide these inventories to begin of this process, but the mission will be ready now to conduct this job by itself, but it requires unhindered, unfettered access to anywhere at any time at any location. That includes factories and other locations where such weapons could be hidden away from sight. With regard to your second question on the problems we face at some of the checkpoints where Ukrainian forces are present, we are in very close contact with our counterparts within the respective ministries, including the Foreign Ministry, the Defense Ministry, and we are addressing these problems there, here at the Kiev level, but then also at the operational level. The OSCE is an organization that consists of 57 participating states. This mission has been agreed upon in consensus by all of the states on the 21st of March last year, including the Russian Federation and Ukraine. The Russian Federation is supporting this mission by monitors and financially, and is therefore part of this mission as it is part of this organization. We take it serious that all our monitors work for the mission, not for a capital, and we will take measures should this not be the case. Thank you.
Колеги, прошу наступні запитання.
Nick Shishko with the Wall Street Journal. I have two questions. First of all, do you guys use some enhanced technical capabilities that would help you to better monitor the situation? I'm talking about satellites, etc. Maybe additional UAVs you are considering to acquire. And the second question is, I've just asked this question to Colonel Lysenko, and he said that Ukrainian side provided all necessary access and documents to OSCE monitors in the ATO zone. But I've seen in your previous report, I believe yesterday, there was a note that you were not allowed to a storage site. So just wondering, can you confirm that Ukrainian site is in full compliance with your requests with regard to baseline information, or it's just DPR and LPR? So could you clarify on this a little bit?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. With regard to the technical capabilities, as you know, in the package signed on the 12th of February in Minsk, it has been stipulated that the mission can make use of enhanced capabilities such as the ones you referred to, that is satellite imagery and additional UAVs. We are at the moment in contact with various participating states of the OSCE to get access to such satellite imagery, because that's the tool that is at the moment out there. The satellites are already up in the skies, and we will be using these imageries both for planning purposes but also for reporting purposes, and that will be reflected as soon as these agreements are there in our reporting. We are not that far yet. With regard to the UAVs, we have our own capability there running at the moment. It is increasingly now better functioning because the weather improves as the winter passes away. It sees more now, these UAVs, and we are also in contact with our participating states and our secretariat in Vienna to explore other options to enhance this capability as well. I have to again reiterate that without access on the ground of our patrols, these technologies will be of help, but they will not be able to replace a patrol. A satellite cannot look into a factory, and then a UAV drone cannot look into a coal mine or into a forest. For that, we need unhindered, unfettered access to anywhere at any time. We have 350 monitors in the east, often more than 30 patrols out in a day, and that would be sufficient if we would have access to go to these places and then to make sure that the weapons not just are being moved around, but are being withdrawn and remain withdrawn. With regard to access provided by the Ukrainian forces, as I have reported to you before in my briefing, we have some difficulties on both sides. Those are being addressed on both sides. We have good cooperation with our host, the government of Ukraine, including the Foreign Ministry, the Defense Ministry, and the operational side on the ground. Where there are misunderstandings that relate to our mandate and to our ability for this access, we will clarify this. We have now also more direct lines of communication with the respective line ministries, and we hope that this will improve. You will see in our daily reporting that we are still being prevented from accessing one or the other places. We specifically highlight these Not that we want to point any fingers at, but if you read our mandate of the 21st of March of last year, you can see there that we are obliged to report explicitly on the restriction of our freedom of movement, and that is what we're doing on a daily basis. This will help to illustrate to the parties that they are at the moment not yet there where they should be. Once full access is being granted, we will be able to further enhance the completion of our task as assigned to us in the Minsk arrangements, and the latest then on the 12th of February in this package that has been signed in Minsk to implement the September Minsk arrangements. Thank you.
Дякую, колеги. Чи є ще запитання?
Dear colleagues, do we have other questions?
У нас є повідомлення.
Esteemed colleagues, now we are going to have telephone communication with the commander of 128th Brigade, whose name